Consideration of bills.
Honourable members, I call on the Attorney General and Minister for Economy, Civil Service, Communications, Housing and Community Development, the Honourable Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum, to move his motion. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Pursuant to a resolution of Parliament on Monday, 29 August, I move that the Electoral Amendment Bill 2022 be debated, voted upon and be passed. Thank you, sir.
Is there a seconder?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to second the motion.
I now call on the Honourable Attorney General to speak on his motion. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, again, this bill was, in the motion of 51, was talked about quite a lot also, and some of the issues were highlighted by members of the opposition, indeed the opposition to it. Mr. Speaker, sir, most of the opposition, it would appear, to this particular bill was in respect of Clause 3 of the bill itself, which is Section 6, dealing with the powers of the supervisor. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to highlight a couple of matters in respect of this. I would also, Mr. Speaker, sir, like to take this opportunity to raise or respond to the press statement that was issued by the Fiji Law Society in respect of this particular bill itself, and how NFP has also come out, endorsing the Law Society's analysis of it, Mr. Speaker, sir, and supporting it. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, sir, obviously they both are endorsing each other. Law Society obviously endorsing NFP, it would appear. Mr. Speaker, sir, but if I could just, before I do that, sir, I wish to highlight a couple of points, that the bill is not only about the powers of the supervisor of elections. Sir, it is also about, very practically, and that's why there's an urgency of it, is to do with how do we deal with the ballot papers, given the fact that there's a possibility of 10 registered political parties. And the very practical issues regarding that, sir. And also it is about the opinion polls. Mr. Speaker, sir, if I could please, if you could allow me, please, to just get the sample from there, because I brought this here just to demonstrate to members of Parliament regarding it, sir. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, this was the ballot paper that was used in the 2018 elections when we had that many political parties and the numbers that were printed. This is what the members had to, the citizens had to go and choose a number. Mr. Speaker, sir, if we have, given the change in political parties, if we have 300 candidates, this will be the size of the ballot paper. 300 candidates. If, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have 320 candidates, this will be the size of the ballot paper. Now, there are batches of 13. So 13 would weigh 7.6 kilograms. If we have 420 candidates, this will be the size of the ballot paper. And it would weigh 9.8 kilograms. If we have 495 candidates, this will be the size of the ballot paper. It will weigh 11.4 kilograms. Mr. Speaker, can I have that one, please? Sir, this weighs 12.6 kilograms, batches of 13, and this would be the size of the ballot paper with 550 candidates. 10 political parties, all of them filing nominating 55 candidates, 55 seats. This will be the size of the ballot paper. And this will be the weight. This law amendment is to deal with such things. So the Law Society, the NFP, and all of you who are saying get rid of this bill are actually saying let's not deal with the situation. Speaker, sir. The difference in the ballot papers. And Mr. Speaker, sir, this is where you slot it through. You can imagine the practical issues we'll have. I just wanted to highlight this to you, and I asked it, sir. I asked the Supervisor of Elections, sir, if he could provide this to demonstrate to you the practical issues regarding this particular bill. And all the shenanigans we've heard publicly since Monday, none of them have focused on this. Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you look at section 2 of the bill, it simply says definition of a person now is a natural or legal person. All the other laws have it. Honorable Tusawa went on this, conspiracy crusade. I don't know whether you took us to Russia or not. Mr. Speaker, sir, then the rest of course, is section 100, which is clause 5, in respect of the Electoral Commission must approve the method of packing the unused, used and spoiled ballot papers after the count of the ballot papers. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, clause 3. Clause 3 of the bill says, Mr. Speaker, sir, 1B in particular, notwithstanding the generality of subsection 1A, if the supervisor has reason to believe that a person has information or documents relevant, this is the important part, relevant to or required by the supervisor of elections for the performance of his or her functions under this Act. Under this Act. Look at the Law Society spiel. It says here, the amendment would give the supervisor of elections power to compel any person to provide to him all information or documents on virtually any pretext. On virtually any pretext. In other words, what they are saying is that now with this amendment, the supervisor of elections can actually ask for information as to where Honorable Tikun Dua went last night. It does not have anything to do with this particular amendment. It does not have anything to do with this particular Act. Again, he's wrong. They are already, Mr. Speaker, so this is the pedestrian analysis of the Law Society. This is why you keep on saying the Law Society now is just a mouthpiece of a cabal of people in this country. A cabal of people. Mr. Speaker, sir, there's already a law. You see, they have not ticked on to this. The Law Society even, supposedly representing these great legal minds. There's already a provision under the Political Parties Registration Act. Exactly the same provision. Section 26A, notwithstanding the generality of subsection 1, if the registrar has reason to believe that a person has information documents relevant to or required by the registrar for the performance of his or her duties under this Act, the registrar may notice in writing by. It's already there. NFP, SODELPA, all the other people did not object to this particular provision. It's there. Similar provision, verbatim, word for word. Verbatim means word for word. It's there. No objection to it. But only now they're objecting to it. Why? Because they read too many conspiracy books. There is other laws, Mr. Speaker, sir. I brought them all here. There are other laws here. Let me read them out to you. Under the FNPF Act, Section 99, any inspector may exercise any power set on subsection 2 for any of the following purposes: to find out whether this Act or the former law has been complied with, and to assess the correctness of information provided under this Act or the former law. The powers are to enter any place where persons are believed to be engaged employees, enter at any reasonable time, any premises used or apparently used by a relevant person, take photographs, make videos, blah, blah, blah. It's all there under the FNPF Act. Under the FCCC Act, similar provision, 119. In relation to any matter relevant to the operation and enforcement of this Act, an officer of the Commission may require a person, either by oral or written requisition, to furnish any information, any records or copy thereof, to ensure that there's compliance with this particular Act. Mr. Speaker, sir, there's another provision under the FICAC Act, similar provision. There's a requirement divulging official information. Mr. Speaker, sir, that has to be provided to them too, for the enforcement of the actual Act itself. There's a provision again, Mr. Speaker, sir. Under the Immigration Act, powers of immigration officers for the purpose of exercising powers, performing functions, or carrying out the duties under this Act, for the performance under this Act, an immigration officer may, without a search warrant, enter and search any ship, aircraft, vehicle, premises, or place, question any person who desires to enter or to leave Fiji, whom the officer has reasonable grounds for believing to be a prohibited immigrant, for applying for extension or variation. All of these powers exist for these different agencies. None of them, the Law Society has not raised the issue of privilege. They're saying, oh, it breaches privilege. How does it breach privilege? Mr. Speaker, sir, another provision. Financial Transaction Reporting Act, the one we've just been through. Again, for the purpose of complying with this particular law, you have to give the information. The unit, FIU, they have to be able to enforce the provision of this Act. They can go and access all this information. I'm going to read it out to all of them. Please note it, go and read it. All of these provisions already exist. And that seems to be the entire thesis of the objection to this particular amendment, Mr. Speaker, sir. What it has done, Mr. Speaker, sir, unfortunately, and I've known him for a number of years, Wiley Clark has put his name to this, selling his name again. Mr. Speaker, sir, the proposed amendments unnecessarily extend the powers of the supervised election beyond those necessary to fulfill its duties and powers under the Electoral Act. The amendment says under the Act, whatever is required to do under the Act, he'll do it. There's a provision in the Act itself. They can appeal to the Electoral Commission. They're saying there's no right of appeal. There's also provision in the law to say if anybody is dissatisfied with the law, they can take it to the courts. They have not analyzed any of that. There's absolutely no provision for them saying this. And then, of course, and I want to bring these people in, the Law Council of Australia has now issued a statement just today saying whatever the Law Society said is correct. You see, Mr. Speaker, sir. And of course, CFL, the little sounding board of theirs, went and did a story on it, saying Law Council of Australia is doing it. Where was the Law Council of Australia when all the shenanigans were taking place in Fiji before? Mr. Speaker, sir. Where were they, Mr. Speaker, sir, when we have an electoral system?
Order.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Order.
You see, Honourable Gavoka loves Australia so much. If you say Law Council of Australia, you say Qantas must be right. Must be right.
Order.
Must be right, Mr.
Order.
Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir.
Order.
You see, you know, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Order.
Honourable Gavoka said, oh, it's like talking to a wall. Despite me reading about all these legal provisions, which have been in existence in law in Fiji for a number of years, despite them having similar provisions, he's just completely tuned off. This is a serious issue. So he's already drawn a solution or conclusion. So no matter what we say, no matter the facts staring in their face, they will still object to this, Mr. Speaker, sir. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, sir, this amendment simply allows for the supervisor of elections to carry out his job under this Act. Under this Act. You see, as soon as I saw Law Council of Australia, it's a different story now. And if you read the analysis, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is really interesting. They say here, the Law Council has taken the view that the views of such powers is justified only when necessary to achieve a legitimate purpose. What is the legitimate purpose? To have an election that is credible. That is a legitimate purpose. So they are indirectly saying, if you read it carefully, that if it's for legitimate purpose, it's okay. The Immigration Act is legitimate purpose. FNPF, legitimate purpose. Tax, legitimate purpose. FICAC, legitimate purpose. All of them legitimate purpose. Conducting an election through a proper, transparent means and having it effectively monitored, having it effectively enforce the laws is a legitimate purpose. Mr. Speaker, sir. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I will constrain myself to those introductory remarks. As highlighted, and I'd like to, of course, reserve my other comments when the opposition will come back with their retort. And, Mr. Speaker, sir, then I could further elucidate and go deeper into what some of the comments that have been made both by the various organizations, including the members of the other side. Thank you, sir.
I thank the